In today's lesson, we're diving into one of the most powerful memory techniques ever, the Lincoln Story method. If you've ever struggled to remember long lists, new vocabulary, or tricky grammar rules, this technique will change the way you learn English forever. By turning separate ideas into one unforgettable story, your brain will remember faster and longer, and learning will become more fun. Let's get started. Chapter 1: Why We Forget, Understanding Your Memory. Have you ever studied something for hours and then forgotten it the next day? You're not alone. Forgetting is a natural part of how our brain works, and understanding why we forget is the first step to remembering more. Let's begin by looking at the difference between short-term memory and long-term memory. Short-term memory is like a small whiteboard in your mind. You write something on it, but it doesn't stay for long. You might remember a phone number for a few seconds or the name of a person you just met. But unless you do something to keep that information, it fades quickly. Now, long-term memory is more like a huge library. Once information gets stored there, it can stay for days, months, or even your whole life. But to move something from short-term to long-term memory, you have to pay attention to it, understand it, and repeat it over time. One reason we forget is because of decay. In memory science, decay means that information simply fades over time if we don't use it. Think of it like footprints in the sand. If no one walks there again, the wind will blow them away. Another reason is interference. Sometimes, new information pushes out old information. Imagine learning similar English words like affect and effect. If you don't organize and review them well, one can confuse the other. There's also emotional impact. Did you ever notice how you remember embarrassing or exciting events clearly, even after many years? That's because emotion acts like a highlighter for the brain. It makes information more sticky. When something is emotionally strong, our brain gives it extra attention. Here's a word you'll hear a lot: retention. Retention means how well you keep information in your memory. If your retention rate is high, you remember more. If it's low, you forget faster. Let's introduce a few more useful words here. Cognitive: this word refers to your mental abilities, like thinking, remembering, and learning. Recollection: the act of bringing a memory back into your mind. For example, my recollection of that day is very clear. Neurons: these are tiny cells in your brain that send and receive signals. They are the wires of your brain's memory system. So, how can we improve our memory? First, by understanding that our brain is not a machine. It's not about being smart or forgetful. It's about learning how to work with your memory, not against it. Here are 3 quick tips. Repeat to remember: if you want to remember a word, don't just read it once. Use it in a sentence. Say it aloud. Write it down. Teach it to someone. Connect ideas: link new ideas to things you already know. If you're learning the English word marine, connect it to the ocean or sea animals. Rest and reflect: don't underestimate rest. Sleep is when your brain organizes your memories. If you never rest, your brain gets overwhelmed. You may also have heard the myth that we only use 10% of our brain. That's not true. We use almost all of it, just in different ways and at different times. memory doesn't depend on one part of the brain. It's a network of neurons working together. Finally, don't be afraid of forgetting. It's part of learning. What matters is what you do after you forget. Do you review? Do you practice again? That's how memory grows stronger. In the next chapter, we'll explore a technique that turns your memory into a map, a fun and powerful system called the memory palace. But for now, remember this: your brain wants to remember. You just have to show it how. Chapter 2: Memory Palace, a powerful ancient technique. Imagine walking through your home, but instead of furniture and windows, each room holds something you need to remember. A banana on your couch. A book flying over your bed. A tiger brushing its teeth in your bathroom sink. Sounds strange? That's the point. Welcome to the Memory Palace, a powerful technique that turns your imagination into a memory tool. The idea of a memory palace comes from ancient Greece. A man named Simonides of Ceos was at a banquet when the roof collapsed. All the guests were crushed and unrecognizable. But Simonides had just stepped outside and remembered exactly where each guest had been sitting. He could see them in his mind. This inspired the method of loci, from the Latin word loci, meaning places. So what is a memory palace? It's a mental space that you build using a real place you know well. Like your home, school, or a familiar walk. You place imaginary items in each part of that space to represent the things you want to remember. The stranger or more emotional the images are, the better. Let's break this down. Step 1. Choose a place. Pick a space you know very well. It could be your house, your favorite cafe, or even your walk to the grocery store. The more detailed your memory of the space, the more powerful it becomes. Step 2. List the items to remember. Let's say you need to remember these words in English. Apple. Guitar. Dentist. Elephant. Success. Step 3. Turn the words into images. Instead of just repeating the words, turn them into strong, unusual images. A giant apple bouncing on your bed. A guitar playing itself in your bathtub. A dentist hiding behind the shower curtain. An elephant squeezing into your refrigerator. A trophy labeled success floating over your kitchen table. The key is visualization, creating vivid and unusual pictures in your mind. The more bizarre or funny, the easier they are to remember. If you just try to memorize a list, your brain gets bored. But if you imagine an elephant eating ice cream in your fridge, your brain pays attention. Let's look at a few words that are useful to understand here. Visualization, the process of forming mental pictures. Association, connecting two ideas together. Anchor, something that holds or secures another thing, like a memory. Loci, Latin word for places, used to describe the spots in your mental space. Absurd, very strange or silly in a way that makes you laugh or notice. Why does this work? Because your brain is naturally good at remembering places and stories. If you think about your childhood home, you can likely picture it in detail, even after years. But try to remember a random list of words you saw online yesterday, it's gone. The memory palace uses this strength. you remember best when you use your senses in space. This technique isn't only for words. You can use it to remember speeches, presentations, or even grammar rules. Imagine walking through a library where each book represents a different verb tense. Or imagine adjectives as colors in a painter's studio. The more creative you get, the stronger your memory becomes. Here's an example for English learners. Suppose you want to remember a list of irregular past tense verbs. Walk into your memory palace and see the verbs happening. Go went, a goat went to the moon in your living room. Buy bought, a robot bought candy at the kitchen sink. Break broke, a dinosaur broke the TV in your bedroom. Strange? Yes. But unforgettable. The memory palace isn't just a trick. It's a method that helps build concentration, creative thinking, and even language fluency. It works because it forces you to be present, to interact with the words and ideas in your mind. Before we move on to the next chapter, here's a challenge. Pick 5 English words you want to remember today. Create your own memory palace, use your room, your walk to school, or even a bus ride, and place those words along the path in funny, powerful images. Walk through that path twice today. Then try to recall the words before bed. You'll be surprised how well you remember them. In the next chapter, we'll talk about chunking, another brilliant method to make memory more manageable and organized. But remember this, your imagination isn't just for dreaming. It's also for remembering. Chapter 3, Chunking, Breaking Down Information. Have you ever tried to remember a long number, like a phone number or a credit card, and found it nearly impossible? But when someone breaks it into smaller parts, like 555, 123, 4567, it suddenly becomes easier. That's the power of chunking. Chunking means dividing information into smaller, more meaningful groups, or chunks, so your brain can process it more easily. Think of it like cutting a big cake into slices. One whole cake is hard to carry in your hand. But one slice? Much easier to manage. Let's explore how this works, especially when it comes to learning English. Imagine you're trying to memorize this list of 12 English words. Dog, apple, table, doctor, pencil, book, chair, tiger, moon, camera, river, phone. If you just try to memorize them all at once, it's hard. But what if you group them into categories? Animals, dog, tiger. Furniture, table, chair. Technology, phone, camera. Nature, moon, river. People/professions, doctor. School-related items, pencil, book. Food, apple. Now your brain only has to remember 6 to 7 groups instead of 12 separate words. That's chunking in action. Let's look at some useful words you'll hear in this chapter. Chunk, a piece or portion of something larger. Overload, too much information at once. Efficient, doing something well without wasting time. Group, to place similar things together. Pattern, a repeated or regular way something is arranged. So, why does chunking help us remember? Our brains are wired to see patterns and create connections. When we group information into meaningful sets, we give our brain a shortcut. Instead of remembering 12 random things, we remember a few familiar clusters of meaning. Let's apply chunking to language learning. Chunking vocabulary. Instead of learning single words one by one, learn word families or phrases. Good at, interested in, afraid of. Go to school, go shopping, go to bed. Make a decision, make a mistake, make a call. These are often called collocations, words that naturally go together. Learning them as a unit makes your speech more natural and your memory stronger. You can also chunk by theme. Travel, passport, luggage, airport, boarding pass. Cooking, recipe, knife, boil, chop, pan. Emotions, happy, excited, nervous, calm. Themes help your brain build a map of words that belong together. So when you remember one word, the others often come along with it. Chunking grammar. Grammar rules can also be chunked. Instead of memorizing each English tense separately, group them by time. Past, past simple, past continuous, past perfect. Present, present simple, present continuous, present perfect. Future, will, going to, future perfect. This gives your brain a framework, a mental shelf to organize similar things. Let's pause to define a couple more helpful words. Framework, a basic structure that helps organize or support something. Collocation, a group of words that often appear together in a natural way. Cluster, a group of similar things close together. Chunking and daily life. Even in daily life, you already use chunking. When you remember your schedule, you don't think, 9 o'clock breakfast, 9:15 brush teeth, 9:30 emails, you think in blocks, morning routine, work tasks, evening break. To use chunking in your English learning. Group similar words or phrases together. Use flashcards by category. Speak or write using full phrases, not single words. Review chunks regularly instead of memorizing long lists. An example for practice. Here's a small quiz-like exercise. Can you group these words into chunks? Words: raincoat, salad, thunder, lettuce, storm, fork, spoon, lightning. Let's see. Weather: thunder, storm, lightning, raincoat. Food: salad, lettuce. Utensils: fork, spoon. Congratulations, you just used chunking. In short, chunking isn't only about memory. It's about thinking strategically. Instead of treating every new word or idea as something separate, you group it, connect it, and make it part of a bigger picture. In the next chapter, we'll talk about spaced repetition, a method of timing your reviews to make sure knowledge stays in your memory for the long term. But until then, take a look at your notes or vocabulary lists and start organizing them into chunks. You'll notice a big difference in how much you remember and how fast you learn. Chapter 4: Spaced Repetition, the Science of Timing. Have you ever studied something, felt like you knew it, and then completely forgot it a few days later? That happens to everyone. But what if you could stop that from happening by using a simple system of timing your reviews? That's the magic of spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is one of the most powerful techniques for remembering anything long-term. Whether you're trying to learn English vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation, this technique helps move information from short-term memory to long-term memory. Let's begin with a simple idea. Your brain forgets fast unless you remind it. Over 100 years ago, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus studied how we forget things over time. He created something called the forgetting curve. The curve shows how quickly information disappears from your mind if you don't review it. Here's the shocking part. Within 24 hours, you can forget almost 50% of what you learned. After 1 week, you may forget 90%. Unless you review it at the right time. That's where spaced repetition comes in. What is spaced repetition? Instead of reviewing everything all the time, spaced repetition means reviewing information at gradually increasing intervals. In other words, the more you remember something, the less often you need to review it. But if you start to forget, you review it again sooner. Here's an example using the word enthusiastic. Day 1. You learn the word and use it in a sentence. She's very enthusiastic about English. Day 2. You review it and write another sentence. Day 4. You see it again in a short quiz. Day 8. You hear it in a video. Day 15. You speak it in a conversation. By reviewing the words several times, just before you're about to forget it, you actually strengthen the memory each time. It's like watering a plant just when the soil starts to get dry. Let's define some useful words. Interval, a period of time between two actions or events. Reinforce, to make something stronger. Retention, the ability to keep information in your memory. Cramming, studying a lot in a short time, usually before a test. Consistency, doing something regularly and steadily. Now, compare spaced repetition to cramming. When you cram, you try to remember everything at once. It might work for a test tomorrow, but your brain quickly lets go of the information afterward. It's like filling a bucket with water, but the bucket has holes in it. You keep pouring, but it leaks out. With spaced repetition, you patch the holes. Tools and apps for spaced repetition. You don't have to do all of this in your head. There are free tools and apps built specifically for spaced repetition. Some of the most popular are Anki, a flashcard app that uses spaced repetition automatically. Quizlet allows you to create your own vocabulary sets. Memrise combines repetition with real-life examples. Brainscape focuses on confidence-based repetition. These apps help schedule your reviews based on how well you know something. If you answer quickly and correctly, it waits longer to show you that word again. If you struggle, it shows it to you sooner. Use spaced repetition for English learning. Here's how to apply it. Vocabulary, add new words to a flashcard app. Review daily. Add example sentences. Grammar rules, instead of reviewing all grammar rules at once, review the past tense one day, conditionals another day, prepositions the next, and so on. Phrases and idioms, don't just read them once. Repeat them aloud every few days in context. Pronunciation practice, record yourself saying tricky words or sentences. Listen again after 2 days, then after 5 days, and so on. A simple spaced repetition plan. Here's an easy 5-step plan you can use. Day 1. Learn the new information. Day 2. First review. Day 4. Second review. Day 7, Third Review. Day 15, Final Review. Every time you review, try to use the information in a new way. Don't just repeat. Write, speak, listen, or even teach someone else. That makes the memory stronger. Here's a phrase to remember. Review just before you forget. That's how you beat the forgetting curve. Final thoughts. Spaced repetition is not about working harder, it's about working smarter. It respects your brain's natural rhythm. You don't need to study longer. You just need to review at the right time. Over time, you'll remember more with less effort. In the next chapter, we'll explore how emotions, focus, and sleep affect your ability to remember, and how improving these areas can make your memory even sharper. But for now, try using spaced repetition to learn just 5 new English words this week. Stick with the system, and you'll be amazed by how much you retain. Chapter 5, Emotions, Focus, and Sleep, the Hidden Powers. When we talk about memory, most people focus on study techniques, flashcards, repetition, and practice. But there's a secret layer most learners ignore. Your emotions, your focus, and your sleep. These 3 things are often the difference between remembering and forgetting. They're not tricks or hacks. They're powerful natural tools your brain uses every single day. Let's start with emotions. 1. How emotions affect memory. Have you ever noticed how emotional moments, whether happy or painful, stay in your memory for years? Maybe it was the day you moved to a new city, the moment you received great news, or even something embarrassing that still makes you cringe. Why does this happen? It's because emotion acts like a highlighter in your brain. It tells your memory, this is important. Keep it. When you're emotionally involved, your brain releases chemicals like adrenaline and dopamine. These chemicals help form stronger connections between brain cells, which are called neurons. For English learners, this means that emotional learning sticks better. If a new word makes you laugh, or connects to a personal story, you're more likely to remember it. If learning is dry and emotionless, your brain may forget it quickly. Let's define a few important words here. Neurons, tiny brain cells that send signals and build memory. Stimulus, something that causes a reaction, like an emotion or a sound. Trigger, to cause something to begin, often used with emotions. Cringe, to feel uncomfortable or embarrassed. Dopamine, a chemical in your brain that's linked to pleasure and memory. So how can you use emotions to remember more? Watch emotional movies in English. Learn words that connect to your personal experiences. Use humor when practicing vocabulary. Share what you learn with others, it adds joy and meaning. 2. The role of focus. You can't remember what you don't notice. In a world full of noise, social media, notifications, and distractions, focus is becoming a rare skill. But memory needs attention. If you're not mentally present when you study, your brain won't store the information. Here's an example. You're reading an English article, but your mind keeps wandering. You finish the page but realize you didn't understand a word. That's not a memory problem, it's a focus problem. Concentration is like a flashlight. It can only shine on one thing at a time. If you shine it on your phone, you're not shining it on your English book. To improve focus, study in short sessions, 20 to 30 minutes. Remove distractions, silence your phone or go offline. Practice mindfulness, being fully present, even for 5 minutes a day. Try the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focus, 5-minute break. Vocabulary to know. Distraction, something that takes your attention away. Concentration, the ability to direct your thoughts to one subject. Mindfulness, the practice of being aware and present. Multitasking, doing many things at once, often badly. Intentional, done with a clear purpose. Focus is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. If you sit down to study vocabulary, then really focus on it, without jumping between tasks. 3. Why sleep is memory's best friend. This may surprise you, but memory doesn't only happen when you're awake. Your brain actually processes and stores information while you sleep. It takes what you learned during the day and organizes it, like putting files into folders. Think of your brain like a computer. When you sleep, your brain runs updates. If you don't sleep well, those updates get interrupted. Even just one night of poor sleep can affect your ability to focus and remember. Research shows that sleep is especially important after learning something new. If you study English in the evening, then sleep well, your brain keeps more of what you learned. But if you stay up late scrolling on your phone, you lose much of that progress. Here are some useful words. Fatigue, extreme tiredness. Consolidate, to make stronger or more organized, especially in memory. Restorative, something that helps you recover or regain strength. Interference, anything that blocks or disrupts a process. Circadian rhythm, your body's natural sleep-wake cycle. Tips for better sleep. Avoid screens 30 minutes before bed. Go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. Don't study right in bed, create a separate space for focus. Use breathing exercises to calm your mind. Final thoughts. If you want to remember more, it's not just about how you study, it's about how you live. Your brain is not a machine. It's part of your body, and it needs emotional connection, focused attention, and regular rest. Here's a quick checklist for your memory health. Am I learning with emotion or just memorizing facts? Am I fully focused when I study or half distracted? Am I giving my brain enough sleep to do its job? If the answer is no to any of these, don't worry. You can change your habits, starting today. Memory is not fixed. It's flexible. And by mastering these hidden powers, you'll see faster progress not only in your English, but in every area of your learning. In the next chapter, we'll take a deep dive into language and memory, and how to make English words stick in your mind with meaning, connection, and creativity. Chapter 6, Language and Memory, Remembering Words That Stick. You've probably been there. You learn a new English word, feel proud for a moment, and then, 2 days later, it's gone. You try to remember, but your brain just draws a blank. The truth is, it's not your fault. It's not that you're bad at remembering, it's that most people learn language the wrong way. So, how do we make words stick? Let's explore how memory and language learning work together, and how to use this connection to speak and remember better English. 1. Why some words don't stay. Many learners try to memorize English words in isolation, one word, one translation. But this method has a big problem. It separates the word from context, from meaning, sound, emotion, and story. The brain doesn't learn best through simple translation. It learns best through connection. Let's define that word. Context, the situation or information around something that gives it meaning. For example, the word run means something different in run fast, run a business, or run out of time. If you want to remember a word, you need to experience it. You need to see it in a sentence, hear it in a conversation, feel it in a story. You need to create layers of memory around the word. 2. Make it personal. Let's say you learn the word enthusiastic. Don't just read the definition. Ask, when have I felt enthusiastic? Can I use it to describe myself? Can I imagine someone who is enthusiastic? Example, I'm enthusiastic about learning English every morning. Now you've turned the word into something personal. It's not just a new word, it's your word. You can do this with almost any vocabulary. Here's a great technique, visual mapping. Take a word and write it in the center of a page. Around it, write a synonym, word with similar meaning. An example sentence. A translation, if needed. An emotion or image it makes you feel. A personal connection or memory. Now that one word has many connections, and the brain remembers connections, not just definitions. Vocabulary to learn. Mnemonic, a trick or device to help you remember something. Recall, the act of remembering something. Association, a mental link between two things. Concrete, real or solid, something you can touch or imagine clearly. Vivid, very clear, colorful, or detailed in your mind. 3. Learn by phrase, not by word. Native English speakers don't think word by word. They think in chunks or phrases. So instead of learning, take care of. You should learn the phrase, take care of, and then use it. I take care of my little brother. She takes care of the garden every Sunday. Learning this way builds both memory and fluency. It also helps with grammar, because you start to absorb correct patterns naturally. Phrase banks you can build. Phrasal verbs. Look after, give up, come across. Idioms, break the ice, hit the books, feel under the weather. Daily phrases, how's it going, no worries, long time no see. Use these in speaking and writing. When you speak with phrases, you speak more naturally, and you remember them faster. 4. Sound and memory. Your ears are one of your best memory tools. When you hear a word many times in different situations, it becomes familiar. So don't just read English, listen to it. Watch videos, listen to podcasts, or record your own voice. Use rhythm, melody, and pronunciation as memory tools. Sing the word, whisper it, say it loudly. The brain loves variety. Example. Word, confident. Say it in different ways. I feel confident today. She speaks with confidence. Being confident helps in interviews. You can also imitate native speakers. Copy the way they say certain words. This connects memory to sound and improves your accent too. Useful terms. Repetition, saying or doing something again to help memory. Auditory, related to hearing. Fluency, the ability to speak smoothly and easily. Accent, the way you pronounce words based on your language background. 5. Turn words into stories. Stories are powerful because they create strong emotional and visual links. You can use even 5 new words to build a silly or dramatic short story. Example words: bicycle, forget, teacher, mountain, laugh. Story. One day, my teacher forgot her bicycle at the top of the mountain. When she came back, it was gone, and we all laughed because she had to run back to class. It's simple, strange, and memorable. Your brain stores stories better than lists. So turn your vocabulary into stories, spoken or written. Final thoughts. Language is not just words. It's experience. The more deeply you engage with a word, emotionally, visually, physically, the more likely it will stay with you. Quick recap. Learn words in context. Make the word personal to you. Study phrases, not just single words. Use sound and repetition to reinforce memory. Tell stories with new vocabulary. In the next chapter, we'll explore how teaching others what you learn becomes one of the most powerful ways to remember and grow your English confidence at the same time. Chapter 7: Teaching Others, the Ultimate Memory Trick. Imagine you've just studied a new grammar point, say, the difference between present perfect and past simple. You understand it, but you're not sure it will stick. Now picture yourself explaining that same rule to a friend who's never heard it before. As you clarify each detail and answer their questions, the concept suddenly feels solid in your own mind. That's the teaching effect in action. Teaching is not a bonus step, it's a multiplier for memory. When you explain something, 3 powerful processes happen at once. Retrieval, you must recall the idea from memory, which strengthens the neural pathway. Organization, you must arrange the information logically so someone else can follow it. Articulation, you must speak or write it clearly, forcing you to notice any gaps in your understanding. Together, these steps transform shaky knowledge into lasting mastery. 1. The Feynman Technique. The physicist Richard Feynman famously used a 4-step cycle to learn anything deeply. Choose a topic you want to master. Teach it in simple language, as if to a child. Identify gaps, anything you can't explain smoothly. Review and simplify until every part feels effortless. For English learners, you can use the same cycle with vocabulary, phrasal verbs, idioms, or grammar. If you can't explain why I have lived is different from I lived, you know exactly what to review. Key vocabulary here. Clarify, to make something easier to understand. Simplify, to reduce complexity. Articulate, to express an idea clearly in speech or writing. Gap, a missing piece of knowledge. Neural pathway, the chain of brain cells that stores a memory. 2. Turning students into co-teachers. A surprising bonus of teaching is that your students often teach you back. When they ask questions, you see the material from fresh angles. Encourage them to paraphrase what you said in their own words. Ask what-if questions, e.g., what if the action continued into the future? Provide examples from their daily lives. Each exchange creates new associations, deepening memory for both people. 3. A 10-minute teaching routine. Use this quick routine after every study session. Summarize the key point in a single sentence. Explain it out loud for 2 minutes, no notes. Write one short example or practice question. Share it with someone, friend, language group, online forum. Reflect, what was hard to explain? Review that part tomorrow. Run this routine consistently and watch your recall soar. Final thoughts. Teaching converts passive study into active mastery. It forces you to retrieve, organize, and articulate, which are exactly the mental actions that strengthen memory. Even if your only student is a teddy bear on your desk, the act of explaining sets powerful cognitive gears in motion. Quick recap. Use the Feynman technique to spot and fix knowledge gaps. Try teachback, microvideos, voice notes, or blog posts for daily practice. Encourage questions, they sharpen your own understanding. Finish every study block with a 10-minute teaching routine. In the next chapter, we'll assemble all these methods into a sustainable daily practice, your personal memory routine, so every new word, idea, or dream has a place to live and grow. Chapter 8. Creating your personal memory palace. Imagine walking through a place you know very well, your home, your favorite cafe, or the street you grew up on. You know exactly what it looks like, where the furniture is, what color the walls are, and how it feels to be there. Now imagine placing things you want to remember in different spots along that familiar path. That's the foundation of a powerful technique called the memory palace. The memory palace, also known as the method of Losey, is one of the oldest and most effective memory techniques ever created. It works by associating information with physical locations in your mind. Here's how it works and why it's so effective. First, let's break down the idea. A palace in this sense doesn't have to be an actual palace. It just needs to be a place you know very well, your room, your school, your office, your neighborhood. The more detailed your mental image, the more effective it will be. Then, you place what you want to remember in different rooms or locations of that place. For example, let's say you're trying to memorize a shopping list: milk, eggs, bananas, and toothpaste. Instead of repeating the list over and over, you walk through your memory palace. In your mind, you might enter your house and see a giant milk carton sitting on the couch. You walk into the kitchen and see eggs dancing on the counter. In the hallway, a banana is slipping around on the floor, and in the bathroom, a giant tube of toothpaste is brushing the mirror. Why does this work? Because your brain is better at remembering images than words, and especially strange, funny, or emotional images. That's why making the visuals silly or exaggerated helps a lot. Now, let's use this method with something more advanced: vocabulary. Suppose you're learning the English word serendipity, which means finding something good without looking for it. Picture yourself walking into your kitchen and unexpectedly finding a treasure chest full of gold-labeled serendipity. That's a surprising and positive discovery, exactly what the word means. The secret to success with the memory palace is threefold: location, imagination, and repetition. Choose a familiar location. Use vivid, strange, or emotional images to make your memories stick. Then mentally revisit the palace regularly to reinforce the information. Even memory champions use this technique to memorize decks of cards, long numbers, or historical dates. But it's not just for professionals. You can use it for exams, speeches, names, languages, and more. Let's clarify one more word: anchor. When you use a place or image to help remember something, you're creating an anchor, a mental link between a piece of information and a visual cue. These anchors keep the memory stable and help you retrieve it when needed. If you practice this method regularly, your brain will get faster and more creative at building memory paths. It's like giving your thoughts a home to return to. So, build your memory palace and fill it with anything you want to remember. Over time, it won't just help you retain information, it'll also make your imagination stronger, your focus sharper, and your confidence higher when speaking or learning English. Chapter 9: The Lincoln Story Method, Making Memories Through Narratives. Our brains are wired to remember stories. From the earliest days of human history, we passed knowledge down not with lists or flashcards, but with stories, tales of heroes, danger, love, success, and survival. Why? Because stories have structure, emotion, characters, and movement. That's what the Lincoln Story Method is all about: turning disconnected information into one unforgettable narrative. Let's begin with a simple definition. The link method is a memory technique where you connect items by imagining vivid associations between them. The story method builds on this idea by turning the links into a flowing story. This technique works best when the connections are bizarre, emotional, or highly visual. Let's start with an example. Suppose you want to remember these English words: balloon, tiger, book, mountain, clock. Try to memorize this list by repeating it, and it'll likely vanish in a few minutes. Now let's create a mini story. You're holding a giant balloon that suddenly pops, and out jumps a tiger. The tiger roars and knocks over a book, which opens and shows a picture of a mountain. You step into the picture and begin climbing the mountain, but halfway up, you hear a loud clock ticking from inside the rocks. Because this story is strange, visual, and connected, you're much more likely to remember all 5 words, in order. That's the power of narrative memory. This method becomes especially useful for English learners when you need to remember vocabulary, collocations, or even grammar rules. Let's try it with 3 verbs: whisper, climb, and spill. You could say, a boy whispers a secret to a cat, the cat runs and climbs a tree, and from the top, it accidentally spills a can of paint onto a sleeping dog below. Suddenly, those 3 words are connected in your mind, not as isolated sounds, but as part of a silly, memorable experience. This method is also helpful for remembering grammar tenses or sentence structures. Suppose you're learning how to form past continuous tense. Create a short story. I was walking in the park when I saw a dog that was dancing to music. Then it stopped because someone was shouting nearby. You've just practiced the past continuous and simple past in one sentence chain, but instead of just repeating rules, you built a scene you can visualize and understand. Now let's look at a few interesting words and phrases that are often part of stories and help bring your memory to life. Unfold, when a story or event reveals itself slowly, like the mystery slowly unfolded as we discovered the clues. Twist, a surprising change in the story. There was a twist, the hero was the villain. Narrate, to tell a story in a structured way. Plot, the sequence of events in a story. Character, the people or animals who act in your story. Using these terms helps you become more confident in both writing and remembering, because you're working with full ideas instead of empty vocabulary. The beauty of the link and story method is that you are in control. You don't need expensive tools or complicated apps. Just imagination. The weirder and more emotional your story, the better your memory will hold on to it. In fact, scientists have shown that adding emotions to learning, even if the emotion is just laughter or surprise, activates more brain regions, strengthening your memory. To get started, take 5 to 10 new words and build a wild little story with them every day. You can write it, say it aloud, or even draw it. If you're learning idioms, do the same. Let's say you want to learn kick the bucket, which means to die in slang. Maybe your story is: a robot kicked a bucket, slipped, and shut down forever. It's silly, but it sticks. By weaving new language into fun and strange stories, you stop memorizing and start living the words. You don't just learn English. You experience it. If you found this method helpful, try creating your own story with new English words today, and share it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you want more memory tips, and subscribe to the channel to keep improving your English every day. Remember, the key to mastering language is to make learning fun and unforgettable. See you in the next video.